there, friends.
Hi.
So a quick disclaimer before we get into this episode. Number one, this turned out to be a very long episode.
Yes.
We are up very late. So we are going to split this into two parts. And what we're going to do basically is just get to the end of the first part and then cut it off. We're not going to give announcements or say goodbye or whatever. And then it'll just flow directly into the next part that we'll release next week. Thank you for your patience with that. We believe all the content is really valuable. So we want to get, you exposed to everything that we talk about today. The other thing I'm going to deliver, you probably already know this based on the title of this episode. We're going to be having a very, very frank discussion about pornography addiction.
Who's Frank?
Steven. Sexuality and other addictive behaviors as a part of this conversation. It's going to be pretty direct and pretty transparent.
Very open about us and our struggles in dealing with pornography, and also struggles in the earlier parts of our marriage.
Right. So this is an ask to both be respectful, and also just know that if that's an area that you don't feel like you are safe to talk about or listen to for this long, feel free to skip. We won't hold it against you.
Yeah.
We understand everyone's got different boundaries and barriers that they need to uphold.
But I also do want to say that if this is something that is not a personal struggle for you, I still want to encourage you to listen to it.
Yeah, if you are a person who has not encountered pornography for yourself, it's really important for you to get the perspective of someone who has, in order for you to kind of navigate the landscape that's out there for our singles.
Yep.
All right. Enjoy the episodes.
Have fun.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, everyone. This is Megan.
And this is Steven.
And this is the Synchrony Podcast, where we talk about transforming apostolic dating culture and ending loneliness in the church.
From the Shoffice.
The Shoffice. Woo, yay. Ba-doo, ba-doo, ba-doo.
We'll throw some pictures on the screen or something, but like all you guys can see is very, very white walled.
Yeah, it looks, you mentioned a second ago that it looks like we're in an insane asylum.
A little bit, from this perspective of the cameras at least.
Yeah.
And it might sound kind of echoey if we get our voices talking to the volume we probably should, but we're going to get it soundproofed at some point.
Despite the imperfections, Steven is hyperfixated on all of the logistics. You've done a great job moving us into this space. The space that we're in is a shed that is now a office / podcast studio / video and audio storage / where I put my piano.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
If you saw our Instagram reel, I did a video a little while back. Oh, actually, we didn't put it on Synchrony.
No, we could post that.
Yeah.
It'd be fun.
It was on my personal.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll post it to Synchrony's Instagram so you guys can see it. But basically, we got it moved on our property, and it was a calculated decision because our house is so tiny.
Our house is tiny. Our kids are growing. We needed some more space, and the couch that we were podcasting on smelled really bad.
It smelled so bad, like dog.
Yeah, our dog had really made it her own. We were borrowing it, and it was time to move away
Borrowing
from it.
it from her.
Yeah.
It was hers, and we kicked her out of it.
Yeah, so now she has a cute little pillow over there in the corner where she's snoring.
Yeah, you might hear her.
Yeah. Thank you for putting all the hard work into putting this space together, getting this here. It's been a slog for you. It's been like 3 weeks of logistical stuff.
It's like the best kind of slog, though.
You'd love this stuff.
Oh yeah, this is my the house is a burden to me right now because I want to be out here working on this stuff.
Yeah, I know. You've had to really moderate your hyperfixations of like not coming out here and organizing all of your cables.
I haven't been doing well.
It's fine. It's fine. We will deal with laundry at another time. I'm grateful for all the work you put in on this, though, seriously, because I was overwhelmed by the logistics, and you were like,
Yeah. And this is, well, I realized how much stuff we have for Synchrony.
So much stuff.
Like maybe we'll throw a photo up or something.
We will not.
Well, no, it's just between podcast setup, between Synchrony pens, between having computer desks for everything. It's like all of our lighting equipment. It's like wow. we've really acquired a lot of stuff. How did it fit into that one little tiny room?
It's a miracle. It's like the loaves and the fishes. Now it
Well,
has
I guess it
multiplied.
wasn't. It was in our bedroom too.
Yeah, it's been everywhere. It's been all over our house.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're super excited about this. We will be like warming it up in here and decorating and making it less sterile.
Yeah, it's sterile. That's a good word.
Mm-hmm.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah. But for now, this is where we're at. We just got back from General Conference, which was amazing. And thank you to all of you who came to our meetup. Thank you to those of you who stopped us and said hi. We met some really great people.
Wow, there's so many cool people.
Yeah, people who were like, oh, we're listening to the podcast, or we've been following it, or we've been involved. People that I had done consultations with but never met in person. I was wrong about how tall all of you were. And you were probably wrong about how short I was.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, Megan. Like,
Yeah.
huh.
I just remember Ben walking up and him like looking down at you, and you're like, wow.
Zach too. Zach, if you're listening to this, I was incredibly wrong. I was like, home dude, like, dude, you are extremely tall. I felt it was wild. Anyway, so congrats to all of you tall people out there.
That's right.
Lucky folks. But it was amazing.
Yeah.
Just incredible.
If honestly, the word I would use is humbling. Because
Very on theme.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Brother Bernard.
Bishop Bernard preached an amazing message that everyone should go listen to if you haven't already.
Yeah.
We might repost it next week while we're out of
Yeah,
town.
honestly, that would be a great repost. I think everyone should listen to that. It was humbling because it was so cool to see people who sought us out that we had never met, that listened to our podcast and told us how much it has helped them.
And that's not on us. Like
That's like,
we're just so grateful that the Lord has given us this opportunity to touch people and connect with part of their lives that, they hadn't really felt seen in before.
Yeah. I had fully set my expectations to go there and not be recognized by anyone.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, just because I was like, all three of our listeners.
We're not. It wasn't like we were celebrities or anything.
No.
It was fine, but it was cool to see a handful of people who were like, "Oh, you guys," we're like, "Yeah, it was neat."
You're those dating people.
Right.
Yep, that's us.
That's us. So we just felt super blessed, and it was so cool to sit with Stephanie and Eric. If you haven't watched last week's episode, please go watch their story. To sit in the home of a couple, to sit at the dining room table of a couple and share a meal in a home that would not have existed without Synchrony and everything that you guys have helped us develop here.
I know. I remember looking over at you the night before we were in service, the night before we were going to Eric and Stephanie's house.
Yeah.
And I looked at you and I said, we're about to go into a home that wouldn't have been created.
Yeah.
And then you just like immediately like eyes started swelling and getting all watery. But it was one of those things. It's like, we've had so many weddings now and I don't think it really hit me that those are real people in marriages. And like, that sounds silly because of like what we do.
It's surreal.
But like, it's tangible. It was tangible.
Yeah.
You walked in, you smelled the coffee, you smelled the bacon. Like
at one point, this will stick with me for the rest of my life. Like we were in service and with Eric and Stephanie, because we met up for church the next day. They came to one of the night services. And at one point they laid hands and prayed over us.
Yeah.
And to see a couple that we've had the privilege of pouring into, pour back out and minister together.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like I've been watching, I'm sorry, I'm creeping on everybody. I've been creeping on Carlos and Liz, another one of our couples, as they go do as evangelism together. And it just, there's nothing so fulfilling as to see them stepping into the calling God has for them and stepping into the life that they felt led to build. It's just incredible to watch. It's like watching a miracle happen right in front of us,
Yeah. So sorry if you guys have to watch us gush again.
It's exciting.
It was so cool to sit at their dining room table and eat food that was made by them. And
excellent French toast, by the way, Eric.
yes, literally break bread.
Yeah. There was bread, we broke it.
It was French bread.
Yeah, it was good.
French toast. It was amazing and it was awesome. But yeah, no, the general conference was fantastic. Loved all the day sessions we went to.
One of the people that we met, or I would say the entities that we encountered, is something that we're going to be talking a lot about tonight. And they're certainly not the only people that are working on this, but we connected with this ministry that we are so excited about. You might have heard of them. If not, it's called Apostolic Moral Purity, or sometimes abbreviated to AMP. And we connected with their team and had some great conversations, went to a session that they held during the day. And talking with them just reaffirmed for us the importance of talking about some patterns that we've seen and that we've experienced in our lives.
Yep.
So we're going to be opening up a can of worms tonight.
Yeah. Let's get the can opener.
How are you feeling about this?
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a vulnerable topic for you.
It is. I think it was more vulnerable if you would have asked me 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And for multiple reasons, but I think between General Conference and just how big of an issue we're seeing that this is becoming, and not for the reasons y'all are thinking, it's made me want to talk about it more.
Yeah, I think I feel a release to speak about this.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well,
I think
it's one of those things is something that we're lacking in just the Christian movement in general, but also specifically apostolic, is transparency and vulnerability.
Specifically for men.
For men.
Everyone, but I think men are really struggling there.
Yeah, and I'm tired of it because for a long time I used to see that side of me being like willing to be vulnerable and transparent with people as like something that was unique to me. And I realized that this is something that I think, and I used to feel weird for it.
Yeah.
I used to feel very weird or like an outlier. And it's one of those things I was like, no, this needs to be the norm. Like there needs to be brotherhoods. There needs to be like bonds between men and mentorships and Paul and Timothy relationships and Paul and Silas's relationships. Like we need to have those there. There's a reason why there's so many disciples. Like I honestly believe that they relied on each other.
Sure.
So anyways, I'm excited to start talking about this kind of stuff more.
Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about pornography.
Wow. Wow.
Instead of starting by throwing out statistics and talking about what we've observed, are you okay if we start by talking about your experiences with pornography?
Sure.
Because I think that if nothing else comes out of this, I want people who have struggled in this area to see someone else who's encountered this and has grappled with it and is doing well.
Yeah. And also a side goal of mine is that I hope that the people who are not struggling with it and that don't know how to have opinions of it,
right, or who lack compassion,
lack compassion is one thing, but I think if you haven't been exposed to it or haven't been around people that have been, you live a little bit in a one, you're blessed. Like I'm happy that you haven't. But two, also it's hard to understand.
Yeah, it can be a really difficult sort of cognitive leap to get to put yourself in the shoes of someone who's walking in that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of treat this like an interview.
Go for it.
Okay. How old were you when you first saw pornography?
10.
Tell me about how you encountered it.
I was hanging out at a friend's house playing Sonic 2 Adventure Battle on the GameCube. And
church friend or?
No, not church friend. My friend Hayden. I grew up with him in Jupiter. I lived down the road. And a mutual friend of ours who we tolerated, but he just happened to be in the neighborhood, had an older brother. He lived in a very dysfunctional household. I just remember his parents always yelling. His older brother was always kind of acting out. And if I remember correctly, his older brother was like 5 or 7 years older than him. So I remember him coming over one day, and I don't know what, like, if there was conversations that led to this. I don't think there was, because I'd never been exposed to pornography up to this point. He, looking back, is kind of comedic, but he walked like 3 or 4 blocks down the road from his house through people's like yards to get to Hayden's house, carrying a black duffel bag full of magazines.
Wow, that's commitment.
And like that was his like sneaky way of walking around the neighborhood with these things.
Definitely could have gotten picked up by the Jupiter police.
Yeah, I was like, nowadays a kid walking around with a black bag wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
But he's probably 10 or 11, and so he was walking down the road and brought him over to Hayden's house. We were none the wiser. He's like, "Hey guys, look what I brought over."
Wait, he was 10 and you were 10? You guys are the same age.
We were all the same age.
I see. Okay.
Sorry.
The stuff belonged to his older brother.
Yes. So he said, "I found these in my garage, and they're my older brother's."
Gotcha. Okay.
And it was basically magazines of Playboy. And to this day, the first image that he had like opened up to is still burned in my memory.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was looking at. I mean, I knew it was a person,
Right.
and I knew there were private parts, but I didn't know, my 10-year-old body didn't really know how to process why they were naked. Or not even, some areas were not even fully naked, but like very seductively dressed. And nothing happened at that point. It was just more of like, that was my first time seeing that stuff existed.
Do you remember feeling, I mean, at that age, was your instinct that what you were seeing was wrong or secret, or?
I knew I wasn't supposed to be seeing it.
Yeah.
We ended up getting in trouble for it because I was like, cool. And then we're like, let's go play outside or let's go hang out outside. We used to go like climb trees and stuff.
Normal 10-year-old.
normal things that a 10-year-old boy would do.
Yeah.
And Billy is the one who brought the magazines over, just left the magazines on the bed in the duffel bag, just on Hayden's bed.
Wow.
And so Billy, I guess, just didn't care. And apparently none of us were wise enough to like hide it. So we just went outside and hung out, and then Hayden's mom found it, and then Hayden's mom told my mom. So it was, we ended up getting in trouble for it, but my mom was honestly, I think, just more surprised that a 10-year-old would be exposed to that. And this is back before, like, internet was around. Like, we had computers, but it was like...
Yeah, this is like what, like 2002?
Probably 2002. Yeah, 2002.
Yeah, so the internet's a thing. You probably have a computer in your house that belongs to your whole family.
Yeah, we had a communal computer in our living room. That was it.
Right. And you know, everyone in the house knows when you get on the internet because of the dial-up sound.
Oh,
right?
100%, yeah. Yeah, and then my mom was always on the phone, so let's be honest, we never actually had internet.
For you kids who don't know, there was a time where you could not simultaneously talk on your landline, curly extendable cord phone and use the internet at the same time. What a time to be alive. So you got exposed to pornography not because you sought it out, but because it
just showed up.
It showed up. And as a young child, and this tracks with, I think, the like statistical age of the average exposure. I think it's around 9 or 10 now. I have people in my family, a male relative who was exposed at the age of 6. You know, so I think as the internet becomes more accessible to kids, the rate of exposure is going to be faster.
100%.
So, when do you remember first seeking out pornography of your own volition?
So I kind of forgot about it. I didn't have magazines in my home.
Right.
So it wasn't like I just could go look at it as I was curious. But honestly, unironically, it was after my dad died. Because we moved to West Palm, back to West Palm, and there was a kid who lived in my neighborhood, who was exposed to it more and had a lot more curiosities. He wasn't inherently a weird kid or like a overly sexual kid. He was just a kid who was looking at pornography at his house and asked me questions about it, and I didn't really know about it. I mean, I knew about it, but I didn't really know how to get access to it. He kind of taught me or told me about it, which had made me curious.
How to access like internet porn?
Yeah. But I had no understanding of technology on I was so worried about getting in trouble.
Sure.
That I didn't access. Like in my mind, I literally had thoughts go through my mind that like if I accessed a bad website, it was going to come in the bill in the mail, like with the websites on it. So
Right.
like I was so nervous.
Or remember that pop-up that used to happen where it was like, your computer has performed an illegal action.
Yeah.
And you're so worried that like the cops were going to show up to your house.
Oh, sure.
Kids, if you don't know what this was,
Yeah.
computers had really bad error messaging in the early 2000s.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I was about 12 and a few other things kind of made me more curious. Like right after my dad died, I was hanging out with an older teenager who also talked about different things about masturbation and stuff like that, which I didn't even know what masturbation was up until that point.
Right.
And then whenever he told me about that, it made me curious about it. And then I kind of linked the two together when my friend in West Palm told me about it. Right. So then that's when I got more curious about that area of life.
Yeah.
But I wasn't actively seeking it out as much. It was just sheer curiosity.
I want to connect the dots though for people really quick, because the experience that you are describing with encountering pornography is already so ancient compared to the level of access that kids have today. So,
oh yeah, I sound like a boomer right now.
Right, but think about that. So you were raised in an apostolic home, right, where you didn't have, to your knowledge, any pornography in your home.
Yeah.
You had minimal access to worldly media sources, I think. I mean, knowing your mom, she's always been very careful about what came into your home as much as she could be, right?
We only watched Hallmark movies. It was miserable.
Which y'all know.
60 Minutes or Touched by an Angel.
Ooh, boy. Y'all know I have feelings about Hallmark. But anyway, still, relatively wholesome, And your exposure happened out. The actual pornography, the origin of it was 2 degrees of separation away from you, right?
Yeah.
It was a friend's sibling, right?
Yep.
That exposed you to it initially. And then those experiences compounded with other experiences in your youth to set you up for a curiosity that then led you to a deeper connection to this.
Yeah.
That slow process is so antithetical to the way it is now.
Yeah.
Where a single online exposure can open up a cascade of access to completely free and untethered pornography.
Yeah.
In whatever variety somebody wants to seek out.
Yeah.
Okay, so I also let me ask about this too. So you and I have talked about how addiction and pornography is not really about sex and sexuality.
Yeah.
It is using sex and sexuality, which is a God-given structure, right? It's sexuality, human sexuality is a gift. It is a God-designed attribute of mankind, right? Pornography, addiction, and masturbation use human sexuality that is gifted by God to meet an underlying need caused by a wound or a hurt or some sort of distraction, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're using
a coping mechanism.
Right. You're using that to address an underlying need, right? What was going on in your life at the time that all of this was sort of happening?
How much time do we have?
try to give it like most people who have heard this for a while kind of know, but give it like the microwave version.
Yeah. The time that I was probably the most curious about it, and I happen to have friends who also help make opening that door easier. None all of these friends I'm talking about happen to not be in church.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily exclude other people that were probably struggling with it at the same time that were in church, but the friends that exposed me more to it were not in church. My dad had just passed away prior that year.
After a long illness.
There's a lot of factors that were involved. My dad, so context, my dad died December 24th, 2004. I was 12. I just turned 12. And he had already had my mom purchase a Dell computer for me prior to him passing away and deciding to go into hospice. So my dad died the 24th. We went and stayed at my Aunt Debbie's house. My mom and me stayed at my Aunt Debbie's house so that way we can just be around people.
Yeah.
And woke up the next morning to Christmas from a computer from my dad, which I want to let you know, my mom knew nothing about computers. And to this day, an iPad is hard for her. I love you, Mom. It's true.
She admits it.
No, yeah. So like, as a kid who was already raised around technology, I already had a step up on her. So my dad passed away. I had already been exposed to it previously, had the curiosity for it. I had friends who made the curiosity search easier. There were not a lot of guards back then to make it like block that kind of stuff as easy. And also it wasn't but a couple years later, my mom ended up in a abusive relationship with my stepdad at the time.
Right.
And so my mom was, understandably, my mom had just passed away. Sorry,
Mom.
Sorry, just kidding. My dad had just passed away. My mom was grieving the loss of her husband. I was grieving the loss of my dad. She was trying to process that. And then a couple of years later, she ends up getting married to someone who ends up being abusive, so she's trying to survive.
Right. And you've also been in this process, you've been uprooted a couple of times from different homes as you guys moved.
Yeah.
Right.
So she's trying to survive. She's trying to save her marriage as best as possible and trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but like give him the benefit of the doubt and grace and, because all the other things. But that being said, like I was coming home, I was doing bad in school. I was not doing good in school. I was looking back, I was probably severely depressed.
Yeah.
And we just had so much going on that it was just easier for me to play video games. And when I emotionally wanted to not think about what was going on in my present, I sought for an escape.
Right.
And so as I learned how to use technology more, I then used the computer for looking at pornography.
Right. And the other part of this perfect storm is you're going through puberty.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, on top of that.
At the same time. So I want to, your experience is very unique in the sense of everything that was happening in your life. But I think that most people at some point that encounter pornography experience at this perfect storm at some point where it becomes a solution to a problem for them, right? Yeah. For you, pornography became a solution to access to all the feel-good neurotransmitters that come with, masturbation and orgasm.
Yeah, 100%.
We're going to use like regular terminology in this, so buckle in, y'all. Again, human sexuality is designed by God, right?
Yeah.
But when you have these perfect storm scenarios that are causing trauma or causing hurt, when the fallen world that we live in shows up and wounds you, right? It is natural to seek out something to help mitigate that pain and that discomfort. That is a very human thing. And I'm going to be, the reason why I'm harping on this is not because I want people to think that we think pornography is okay.
Yeah.
Because we don't. We have big feelings about what it's doing in the church and why we need to support people in escaping from it, really. But I also want those of you who are listening to this who were fortunate enough to not use pornography to solve these problems because you're using something probably
Yeah.
to mitigate that, whether it's achievement or it's money or it's workaholism or it's exercise or it's
Food.
it's food or it's
Yeah.
romance. Because just because you've never signed on to Pornhub doesn't mean that you haven't watched that one kissing scene from that one movie 100 times over and thought about it. And, you know, it doesn't have to be explicit porn to still be.
I mean, or reading books that are softcore.
Right.
Porn.
Or full blown erotica.
Yeah.
Humans cope, right? Hopefully we find healthy ways to cope, ways that aren't destructive.
Yeah.
But there are lots of people using lots of things to cope that are hurting them.
Doom scrolling on Facebook and Instagram.
100%.
Yeah.
It's different than pornography, but it's the same mental process of I have a wound, I have a need, and I'm seeking something to solve that temporarily.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to make pornography to be less or equal to doom scrolling on Facebook.
Because we're not calling them the same level of destruction.
No. I mean, we're talking about the coping mechanism for escaping.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're talking about there. Right. But a pornography addiction goes way deeper than that, you know, in terms of what it literally does to your brain chemistry.
Right. So let's talk about you and how, you know, you, to my understanding, had kind of ebbs and flows with your use of pornography. Yeah. Right. What was that like, and what was kind of causing you to get away from it and fall back into it? How did that happen?
Honestly, I think that most of the ebb and flow didn't really start of like trying to fight against it until I started getting mentored by a friend of mine, my friend Nick.
How old were you when you guys did that?
So I asked him to be my mentor at 15. I was 15, and he had just went to UF, or was about to leave to go to UF.
So, which he's moved to a different part of the state.
Yeah, from West Palm. Sorry, he was moving from West Palm to University of Florida in Gainesville, actually here.
Yeah.
And he said, luckily he said yes. And so he called me every day, if not every other day.
And to put some framework around this, because these people don't know Nick, right?
Yeah.
He's older than you are. He was a young...
Yeah, he's about 4 years older than me.
Right. He was a young man in your youth group that you grew up with. But Nick has he's a minister now, working very diligently in the church. He's also one of the most thoughtful and disciplined teachers of the word that I've ever met as a young man. I mean, really, really powerfully gifted in his ability to, and I don't want to say gifted to diminish the fact that he's worked very hard.
No, he's worked incredibly hard to get where he is.
Right. And he really, even as a very young man, I didn't know him as early as you did, but like in my earliest exposures to him, has set a high bar in my mind for what a young minister can develop in terms of his understanding of scripture.
Yeah. And not just scripture, but also this is where I was going to with like the ebbs and flows, is because until I started talking to him about my struggles, I didn't understand that there was a world in which you could, sorry, I'm just going to put this like, again, bluntly. Be blunt. I didn't know that there was a world as a teenager that you could choose not to masturbate. I didn't know that there was a world in which you could resist that temptation of looking at pornography and masturbating.
Because at this point, this has been part of your life for 3 or 4 years.
Well, no, not only that, but it was so common amongst friends at school.
Yeah.
Like it was expected that everyone around you either has seen or was actively looking at pornography. And like, I wouldn't say my friend groups, because I didn't like necessarily hang around kids who were that verbal about it, but it was...
You were in sports.
Every locker room, every time a guy talked about a girl, or if, I don't need her anyways. I can go look at pornography or, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they didn't put it exactly that way. I'm just paraphrasing.
Right.
But it's one of those things. It's like, it was a topic of conversation at every corner you walked around.
Mm.
And so it was one of those things that there is this narrative that was being built that boys can't control themselves.
Yeah.
Like, boys will be boys. It's just your natural urge.
Right.
It's your instinct, and you have to have a release. And so even though I went to church and I had a youth group and I had a youth pastor, a wonderful youth pastor who taught us better than that. And so we knew about God giving us the strength to, resist our carnality.
Even in church, though, I got, boys are so visual.
Yeah.
Boys are so visually stimulated, which we've kind of debunked that a little bit if you go back and look at an old episode about that. Like, men's eyes do function slightly differently than women's, but in terms of what stimulus excites different parts of the brain, they are mostly the same.
Yeah.
But that narrative of boys will be boys and men are so, I think from a woman's perspective, we were told in sometimes very explicitly, like, how you dress is the difference between whether or not your brother will fall into lust.
Yeah.
As if my choices of clothing were the only thing standing between you and hellfire, because if I was wearing something a little too suggestive, you could not help but lust over.
Yeah. Like, how dare she wear that? Because now I have to look at it.
Right. Like, I'm not able to turn it off was the narrative. That, I being guys.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things until he started calling me and talking to me and started asking me questions about, like, for accountability purposes, and really started to get to know me on a deeper level. I then started realizing, and he didn't like bash me or anything like that, but he talked about things about his personal life that made me realize that you can choose not to.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's your flesh. You like you said earlier, like, God gives us the desire for sexuality, right? Mm-hmm. God gives us the desire to seek a partner, right? And want to be with them. That's the difficulty of being a raging hormone, like, teenager, right? Is that
you have,
like,
these perfectly natural God-given desires and nowhere to take them.
Yeah. And you're being told by everyone around you that it's okay to, like, that you're expected to give in to them.
Right.
Right. And again, a lot of these circles are not in church, right? Especially when you're in high school.
Sure.
Right?
But the fact that this narrative is so persistent is interesting because, again, going back to that earlier episode, we looked at a study together about, I don't know if you remember this, they took college guys and put them in brain imaging scanners. Mm-hmm. And they gave one group, they had two groups of these guys and a control. And one group was shown pornography.
Yeah.
And they just were shown it and they were allowed to respond, in their normal responsive way, right? And they mapped which parts of the brain lit up. The other group was shown the same images and was told, do not get turned on.
Yeah.
And they did not.
Yeah.
College boys in a brain scanner looking at porn were able to literally, and by all measures, by vascular changes, by heart rate, and by what regions of their brain lit up, were able to not get turned on just because they didn't want to.
Yeah. So that, like, what's funny is, if I would not have had Nick in my life, who said, no, you can absolutely choose to not masturbate, and, like, you can choose to not, like, obviously not look at porn. Like, you're told at every youth group, every time you turn around, like, guys, don't look at porn. It's not good for you. It's not good for your soul.
Right.
And you're like, yeah, great. But then you go home and do it anyways. Right. And
right. I mean, cause you probably feel like it's hopeless.
Like, yeah. Well, with this mindset of, like, boys will be boys, like, right. Like, you kind of give yourself an out.
Sure.
Even though spiritually, it's wrong. And I was, starting to get more and more into the scriptures. I was starting to pray more. I was really trying to actually strive to be closer with God. And I felt like every time, like, and again, remember, this is from the mindset of like a teenager's perspective. Like, this is not like a full grown adult's like understanding of life. Like, I'm coming from a place where I was like hurt and lost and confused, raised in church my whole life, but
You had the Holy Ghost at this point.
yeah, I had the Holy Ghost at I think at 5 or 6. So like, it's not like I didn't have the Holy Ghost. And I was praying, I was being actively taught by like the armor bearing program. I had people around me who were good influences in my life, and I still struggled with this on a regular basis.
Right.
And the thing is there was always this, and this is the part that I think I really want to talk about this conversation and get it out in the open, is because even in an environment where it should be the safest to be accountable and transparent, and if I did have a struggle, should not be ashamed to reach out to people. And I'm not saying that the people I was around would like throw out my information out there and make me embarrassed. It took years for me to even talk to Nick. And if I didn't have Nick, I don't know if I would have talked to anyone else.
Right.
And so it was still an environment where I knew that my friends and family members and people around me were struggling with the same thing as me. You make certain jokes that you only get that if you watch pornography. Like, there's certain inside jokes that certain people will say that you snicker at and you realize, oh shoot, the only reason why I know that is because I've seen something similar to that on the internet.
Right.
So it's like you hear these things, which means, okay, if I'm struggling with that and this person is also struggling with that, why aren't we talking about it more? Like,
you start to become aware that, everyone has this sort of, they're all carrying this kind of sickness, so to speak.
And like, don't get me wrong, like I had incredible leaders and people who were extremely invested in us. So like, I know it's a personal journey. Absolutely, it's a personal journey, and you should absolutely seek out accountability. But it's one of these things that's like even to this day, like, I know by statistics, that's which we will get into later, there are so many people who struggle with pornography on a regular basis.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if you're a licensed minister. It doesn't matter if you're a pastor. It doesn't matter if you're a counselor. It doesn't matter if you're a father, you're a mother. And now that's a whole other conversation about women and pornography. But like, these are things that are rampant through the church, and we need to open up the dialogue for this.
You said something interesting, which is that this is a personal issue, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about it, human sexuality was not designed to be something that happens with an individual. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I see where you're going there.
And I'm not saying that human sexuality is meant to be communal either, right?
Yeah.
But the way that God designed our sexual desires was for that to be answered in partnership.
Yeah.
Right. In communion with our spouse. And so this idea that this is something that you have to handle by yourself. This is something that the fact that you're using sexual gratification as a numbing agent.
Yeah.
That's something that you got to deal with in your own time. It's just you and the Lord. It's between you and the Lord. It's not.
Yeah.
Like it is a sin against you and your body. It's also a sin against the body of Christ because it diminishes our ability to connect with each other. I think there are so many neurological problems and issues that are caused by using porn for the individual.
Yeah.
But the deeper problem to me is that it isolates you.
Yes.
And it puts up these walls that say, oh, you're so broken and so messed up and no one else is going through it as badly as you are. Then the work of the enemy is to make you feel like you are the worst of the worst. And if anyone were to find out how bad it was.
And the thing is like, you read in scripture that's Satan's like one goal is to keep you separated.
Sure.
And to make you feel alone.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing does that better than pornography.
Yeah.
Because uh, and I'm going to get a little to the nitty gritty here about my personal journey. I think the hardest part for me was not the seasons where I was just unhinged looking at it. It was the seasons in which I went a long time by being a good boy, right, and not looking at it,
Right.
and then I would fall out, and I would make a mistake, and I would momentarily, my flesh would give in, and then I would look at it again.
Right.
The condemnation that comes over you hits you like a brick wall.
Right.
And every single time, like, especially if you were doing really good about going through spouts of long spouts of not doing it, and then falling once, then you'd fall, again 2 or 3 weeks later, or a month later, or 2 months later, whatever. And then every time you would fall, I say fall, you guys know what I mean. It would feel like I had just failed God. I had failed my youth group. I had failed myself.
Right.
And it ripped me apart.
Right.
It affected my mind. It made me so cloudy. And it wasn't the act of looking at it. It was the shame behind it.
Right. And
if I didn't, and later in life, God opened up doors for me to have more people in my life that helped me with accountability.
Yeah.
But initially it started with Nick and him saying no.
Yeah.
Like, he had extremely high expectations out of himself. And I don't want to throw his business out there, but he set the bar very high for me and said, hey, no, you can go years.
Yeah. He was evidence to you that it was possible to maintain freedom from that for an extended period of time before he was married.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so it's one of those things is like, I would hear everyone around me say, no, it's hopeless. But then I had this one person in my life who said, Stephen, you can set your expectations higher out of yourself in this area. Right. And not expectations as in like pride, but like, hey, you can accept, or you can choose to the bar not to be down here. The bar can be up here. Right. And don't listen to the lie of everyone else around you, saying that this is going to be in your life for the rest of your life, because you can choose to get out of it. That being said, that doesn't mean I didn't struggle with it. But I did go through spouts where I think 2 years went by where I had been super strong, and I was reading the word all the time, and I was super involved with the church, but then I fell back into it again, and that's where it really messed with my mental, because I was like, what kind of a Christian am I?
Right. You set yourself up for the sense of to have been successful. Yeah. Right. And then to fall out of that, it seems like the failure is that much greater.
Yeah. And so we don't have to recount every time I went back into it and went out of it. And I do want to give a shout out to a really amazing friend of mine who is an incredible accountability partner for a large portion of my single life. And that's Brad. Yeah. Brad was iron sharpens iron with me and him. He would come over and pray at my house. We would if we were struggling with anything, we would pray with each other. If it was the middle of the night and he's like, hey, I really need to pray about something, he would come over. Luckily, we lived 3 miles from each other. Yeah. But it was one of those things that I knew I could have him and he would have my back about that kind of stuff. So again, there's bonds and those brotherhood relationships.
Let's talk about this because, again, what I want people to hear who have never had exposure to pornography is you're a bit of a unicorn in terms of what you had access to with your male relationships. And I say that because what we're noticing is that as we talk to more guys, there's a real lack of those brotherhood connections for a lot of our guys, right? Yeah. Sometimes it's because they are the only guy their age in their church, and there really is no one else in their space that can partner with them. But you are also unique, I think, in a lot of ways, in that you specifically sought out that mentorship from Nick. You went to Nick and said, as a kid, and said, hey, I want you to be my mentor. not something that lots of kids do, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
not that I know of.
Yeah. So you had a big youth group. You had a lot of great, very strong, very supportive male ministers, right? Who were speaking life over you. And even though you had these great mentors, even though you had a great accountability partner, even though you had a praying mother who was putting up high fences in her home, right?
Yeah.
Even though you had the great youth group, the fantastic pastoral leadership, you had all these things. Even so, you who were trying your best to live for God were struggling with this.
Yeah.
And going through periods of, temptation and challenge and failure and it hurting your faith. So the reason why I'm saying this is because, again, I'm trying to cultivate a compassionate view for people who have really struggled with this, because you had a tremendous amount of resources available to you that many of our young men do not have.
Yeah.
And yet this was a many, many years long battle for you.
Yeah. I mean, even into our marriage.
So let's fast forward to that, because this is why we're talking about this on a dating podcast.
Yeah.
Right. We get married.
Mm-hmm.
What were your expectations for how pornography was going to be, how your relationship with pornography was going to change with marriage?
Ironically, I remember a conversation with Nick. It was on the phone, and he goes, like, we were talking about like my struggle with pornography.
When was this in relation to getting married?
I don't know if it was before we got engaged or like it was a conversation about maybe we were engaged, and he was always the type of person that like with love, he would slap me over the side of the head. That's just how he is.
He doesn't hold back.
No, he doesn't. And he'd basically, he's like, Steven, you got to get a hold on this. He's like, because it's not going to change when you get married. And there was a part of me that didn't believe him.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm going to have access to sex, and I had this very unrealistic view of why I was looking at pornography.
Yes, because in the minds of a lot of people, they're not connecting the use of pornography to that wound we talked about, right?
No, it would, to me, is still to that point. I thought this was about sex.
About your sexual needs and sexual drive.
Yeah, and I thought it was about my desire to be with someone, especially because, like, as a apostolic or as a Christian, you strive for celibacy, right? Up until marriage, or I guess abstinence. Same diff. Okay. I wasn't sure if celibacy was for life.
No. So abstinence just means like to abstain, to withhold. Celibacy is you can have abstinence from alcohol. Celibacy is specifically about sustaining, abstaining from sex.
Yeah. Okay. And so even to this point, up until that point, even into several years into our marriage, I still thought it was about the act of desiring sex or more sex.
Because, I mean, spoiler alert, your first years of marriage will involve the worst sex of your life. That doesn't mean that it's bad. Sex. It just means that is the baseline from which we all start, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Your first pictures that you drew as soon as you learned how to hold a pencil were not great.
Yeah.
Right. It's a starting point.
And not that it was not enjoyable. It's just you're learning together, especially for those who choose to wait until marriage.
Right. As it should be. It is a practice of vulnerability, right? That you enter into when you begin a covenant marriage.
Yeah.
So we, in the scope of challenges that couples encounter with sexuality when they're first building that connection in marriage, I think our experience was fairly straightforward and quote unquote normal, if there is such a thing as normal with that, right?
Yeah.
Despite that, it was not solving this problem for you.
No. And so I do have to say that you gave me so much peace to be able to struggle and know that you were still going to love me even if I messed up.
You told me about your struggles with pornography 3 years into our marriage.
Yeah, because I thought I had a handle on it.
Yeah.
And I was embarrassed. I didn't want to tell you.
I don't remember what the impetus of it was. I think there was like a message. I know you had me listen. I think you might have had me listen to a John Deloney episode about it or something.
Probably.
Yeah. And I remember we were taking a walk.
We'd love to have you on the podcast, John.
Yeah. John, you've really changed our lives. We were taking a walk around the neighborhood and you were so, I remember you looked like you were ready to just crawl out of your skin. Like you,
Yeah.
and you don't really get nervous.
Well, because we were, again, like we were building this relationship around values and transparency.
Yeah.
And it was eating a hole in me that you didn't have all the information.
And I know that we're like reaching back through the cobwebs, 2 years ago, but like, what response were you expecting from me when you told me, and why were you expecting that response?
So so I'm going to give you a caveat. I was not expecting necessarily you to respond this way. I was only going based off of what I had heard other married men and how their wives responded.
So other men kind of in your age cohort who had experienced,
Not even my age cohort. Like if you had older men who had, or like you hear about all the divorces over pornography,
Sure.
you hear about all this other stuff. And so like I knew that you and I had the ability to talk about things that in a lot of relationships would cause strain. We can talk about it in a way with love and grace and transparency that I valued very much.
Right.
So it's not that I thought you were going to do that, but there was still a thought in the back of my mind of like, this is something she shouldn't have to worry about.
and you thought so to put a fine point on it, you thought I was going to reject you.
Possibly.
Yeah.
The rejection, but also there was the spiritual leader like role that I was supposed to be fulfilling that I felt ashamed that I was not doing better.
Like
Right.
I was going to be disappointed.
Yeah, and like what kind of spiritual leader are you? You know, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know, I'm thinking the same thing. So it's like I really struggled because in hindsight, I wish I would have told you sooner.
Sure.
But it's one of those things. It's like I didn't know how you were going to respond. So actually, let's turn the table a little bit.
Yeah.
When I told you about my struggle with pornography, what was going through your mind leading up to that conversation and after that conversation?
I'm going to be honest and say that if I knew then what I knew now about the impact of pornography, my response might have been very different, and I might have been much more concerned.
Yeah.
At the time, I was dealing with my own sexual brokenness,
Yeah.
right? That was being healed in the early years of our marriage as well. So I had my own struggles with pornography and masturbation that had started when I was in middle school.
Yeah.
And with, romance addiction, and with a lot of trauma from a relationship that had become sexual, that I had experienced a lot of brokenness in, and was grappling with reconciling all of that with the first years of our marriage and trying to figure out just navigating that early part of our relationship, right, which was difficult for me at various times. So I was not surprised, because I had kind of bought into the narrative that all guys did this.
Yeah.
Right. And I knew that if I had struggled with it, as a woman, because there's a stereotype that women don't have this problem.
Because women aren't visual.
Right.
Apparently.
Which is wrong. But because I had struggled with this, I had room for grace. Like I understood the challenge of that, to a degree. I don't think I struggled with it to the same degree that you did.
Yeah.
But it had certainly been part of my life and had been a huge source of shame, when I was a young adult, right? Something that I grappled with really heavily. So when you told me, I'm sort of ashamed to say this out loud. My initial response was like, yeah, duh. Like,
Yeah. And honestly, the thing is when you responded that way.
I didn't say, yeah, duh, but
No, but it was very similar to like, that doesn't surprise me. And
Yeah.
it wasn't about my character. It was just like you then started like quoting statistics, and you're like, this makes sense, you know? Like, it made me feel like it made me feel so much less shame. And it made it less about like, it made me want to like be willing to be more transparent with you.
Right. I wish my response had been that, but also I wish it had included me stepping up for you and saying, how can I help you build fences?
Yeah.
You know, like I wish that I had, because I think at the time I didn't recognize the significance of that for our relationship or for you.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand the pattern of behavior and why it was significant. And I didn't know everything I know now about divorces and the repercussions of pornography addiction in marriage. I wish that my response had been, I see you and I accept you and I love you and I don't reject you, but also let me help you. I don't think I started to develop like a concern about it until much later in our marriage. There's a good chance that we're going to have to split this into two. So in case we have, we'll stop here for right now and pick this up again next time.
Oops.
Yeah.
Love you.
See you next week. Great.